will tell you, Manager, normally at this moment, there is a packed house in the council chambers, the people coming down here. The newspaper article may have touched you here.
Okay. Any help I can get.
The crowd, any help you can.
They're watching you on TV.
So we are,
Absolutely.
That's right.
we're glad to hear from you.
Streaming live.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor and members of council. Tonight I will present the proposed FY 2013 budget, and shortly thereafter the proposal is in your hands, but we will work diligently as a staff to provide you with all the information that you need for clarification points and what have you. I would like to first, typically it's at the end, there's the thank you for the staff, but I want to start that up front. And it's not just the staff, and especially the budget staff, that evidently there is some animal that gets inside of the budget system the few days before the budget is supposed to be produced, and all the numbers go haywire, and that happened once again. So I just want to thank the Sabrina Joey Hogg and her staff, and more specifically their families, who put up with trying to put a budget book together over the course of the last 72 hours. And I thank you, council, for all of your input and all of the residents of Norfolk, because it has clearly been a collaborative effort. I like to start off with, in this time of the year, I would typically be at the Ward's Corner Task Force, and I think the Ward's Corner Task Force knows more about my 10-year-old son Noah than the rest of the free world, in the sense that when we put together a budget, we're not home, and Noah is 10 years old, but he's very engaged as to where Dad is and why Dad isn't at home. And it's interesting, during this budget development process, and I'll be very, very quick, I had my typical call from the school principal. I said, oh, here we go again. And during the discussion, it was basically that we were going to move Noah from one class to another class. And at first, Noah was very displeased and very concerned. But I will tell you that 6 weeks later, Noah came home running, and he basically said, hey, Dad, I got to tell you something. I was in a group with 15 people, and I looked around the room, and I didn't know why I was there. And I said, why am I with all these smart people? And then he said, whoa, I must be smart too. So in a very short period of time, just by a group of people coming together and trying to work out solutions, I think my son is a great example of this budget. We really come together. We didn't look at departments. We didn't look at these silos. We basically said there were priorities that we had to address, and we addressed them as a unit. So I, again, thank you. I thank the residents. I thank Noah for pointing things out to me, and especially I thank the budget office and the staff. Okay, typically we have this big financial backdrop, and what I'll try to do is not do a typical budget presentation for you. We typically go over a bunch of numbers, and I'll just do a couple, but then we'll go back to what we started last June, and that was budgeting based on priorities. So this general fund budget is about $799 million. That's what we focus on when we talk about the general fund. That's not from the CIP or from enterprise funds or special revenue funds, but really the fund that basically uses tax dollars and funds from the state. That grew by about 0.5%. All right, so overall, the bottom line with the general fund growth is about 0.5%, or about $4 million. I will say that as you start to look at the priorities, the reason I don't want to spend so much time on the numbers is because that's where we were last year. We said, let's start budgeting based on our priorities. The last time that the community had talked about priorities was the mid-'90s. So over the course of the last year, the council, with input from the community and the administration, approved 6 priorities. And with those priorities, we have been moving as efficiently and effectively as we can to take our resources and wrap those around those priorities. And as I talked about last year, based on those priorities and the vision that you set, we have goals and objectives and performance measures, and they will all roll into our evaluations to see how we are doing in terms of the resources that we have. I will tell you that some of the groundwork has been made in terms of these key initiatives that we're trying to do as administration. We have the impact, where we're really looking at how we talk to our customers. It's not just a call center and you put in a request and you get a response back. It's really what was the interaction between the resident and the employee. And it's really a way of customer service when we have impact. And, I commend my assistant city manager, Darrell Hill, for working out that process. We have Neighbors Building Neighborhoods, which is, if I went back to NOAA, I think that's probably the best example of NOAA in terms of how we come together for problem solving, as well as the Healthy Norfolk Initiative. And my assistant city manager, Ann Odell, has been working very diligently in both of those. And, Ron Williams, the newest guy to the team, I thought he has done a great job in coming together with a flooding strategy. And I thank him for that. And you put that together with this priority setting process, and it gives us the roadmap of how we're moving forward. Building back capacity. I think what's important, and this is what you'll see on the cover of the budget book, we've gotten to a point where cuts over time to the recreation, to libraries, even to planning. It's been very difficult to measure, to be this data-driven organization, if we really don't know what resources we need in order to carry out a program or a service. I'll use an example, the skate park. A couple of years ago, a year ago, we took about $36,000 away from the skate park in terms of providing staffing for the skate park. When we reinstituted the staffing at the skate park in this budget, it cost us over $121,000. So I asked, well, it cost $36,000 to not staff it. Why does it cost $120,000+ to staff it? Well, what had happened in the past, we were taking bits and pieces of people's time from rec centers to staff the skate park. So we really didn't know how we could judge ourselves because we really didn't know how we had applied the resources. So that's what's happening in this budget process. We've asked employees to do more in the past without additional salary increases, and they've given it their best effort, but we're really at a time where we need to make sure that we can adequately match those resources with what we're trying to do in terms of service delivery. We started about the 2013 proposed budget. The starting point is really the 2011 surplus. We got to the end, June 30, 2011, and we announced to you, even at the retreat, that I think at that time was about an $8 million surplus. After we closed the books, it was closer to $11 million. With $2 of those $1 million that we left in reserves, because in terms of our 5% reserve, or where we are at any year, at the end of a fiscal year, we didn't think it was prudent to basically take funds from where we were in 2010. So you gave us the ability to use $9 million to help balance the 2013 budget. And that was extremely important because it allowed us some flexibility in how we went about addressing some of the issues in the budget. I will tell you that we did not use all of the $9 million. And I will tell you that for every dollar that we did use, one of my concerns, or our concerns as administration, is that if you take that one-time dollar and you do it for an ongoing service in 2013, then in 2014 we have a new problem. So while you gave us the flexibility to use all of the 9, we did not. I think that's a good news story, and I think it's a good news story for many reasons. One is that we focus on the rating agencies. In this well-managed government, we want to have strong bond ratings, and we do. In some cases, we're one notch below a AAA, the highest you can have. In other cases, we're a couple notches down. But one of the things that the rating agencies have said over time is that we're a little bit concerned about your reserve levels. So when you start to look at reserve levels, and that 5% reserve that I talked about beforehand, our goal is about $40 million, and we're above that, and that's fine. I think when you start to look at a city of our size, at some point getting to a 7% or higher is a good financial management practice. But we have 2 other reserves, our economic downturn reserve and our risk management reserve. That if you start to look at the goals, one is about $10 million, one's closer to 12. We're not even close to meeting those. So as we start to look at where we are with our year-end surpluses, anything we can do to build those reserves up, they do help. But in the 2013 budget, one of our series of the things that we said we didn't want to do, and some of the things that we did want to do, we wanted to do. One is that we started off with the premise of no general tax increase. beforehand, some of you have mentioned to me that as we start to look at taxes, we first have to prove as an administration that we've done all that we can to be as efficient as we possibly can. We also had one of the principles is that we wouldn't have layoffs or furloughs, and we wouldn't gut core services. A couple of things that we did want to do is provide salary increases for employees, as well as address Norfolk Public Schools requests. So for the next series of slides, we're just going to group everything under these 6 principles, or better yet, these 6 priorities that council has set. One is just being this well-managed government where we're efficient, we're effective, we're responsive, inclusive, accountable, and customer-focused. In order to do that, it was very important for us to have an employee salary increase. What we have is an employee salary increase of 2% beginning July 1. That's the proposal. But it's more than just that. We also have proposed a 2% cost of living increase for our retirees. And we also looked at what can we do in terms of making sure that Norfolk is an employer of choice, where we're starting to get people who want to come to work and be a part of the team. And it's not just because of the salary, but what are some other things that we can do? Over the past, we took away a lot of what we would call services to employees, like tuition reimbursement and different professional growth and development opportunities. And we've restored those, including the Master Police Officer Program and the Master Firefighter Program. One of the keys here is we want to make sure that we have succession planning. We want to make sure that employees are equipped such that they can move into leadership positions in the organization. Under lifelong learning, one of the keys here is that we in the past we talked about education, but now in this priority, it's everybody in lifelong learning. And I want to focus on a couple of areas with Norfolk Public Schools. One is their operating budget, and the other is the school construction plan. When the superintendent introduced his budget earlier this year, there was no request for additional funds from the city. So in other words, we had about $104.5 million that we provided to schools in the current fiscal year. So in the upcoming fiscal year, the superintendent kept that steady. When the school board provided the budget to the city, there was basically a $6.6 million gap. And there are just a few numbers here. One is that the school board said, well, let's have the salary increase included in the request, and that was worth about $4.3 million. During this process, there were changes to VRS in state legislation. I think it caught many localities by surprise, which added about another $1.8 million. Federal impact aid is now forecast to come down another $1.5 million. But in terms of the superintendent's package, there was about $1 million in savings related to a retirement incentive package. So that's where you get about the $6.6 million gap. We do have in this proposed budget what we consider a strategy to meet the school board's request. So what we have is an additional $1 million contribution proposed from the city. There's been an SOQ formula update where basically the funds from the state all in, the additional funds are about $2.9 million. There's been and that includes $1 million as it relates to a sales tax. There's $1 million in carry forwards from sales tax in the current fiscal year. And then lastly, over time, the school system has set aside money over time to purchase buses. We're proposing to get the school system out of the business of purchasing buses and let that be something that we do through our vehicle purchase program. What will happen is we can work together for a strategy, so it's not just the school is squirreling away money over time. And we are convinced we can buy more buses than the 21 that they have planned. So we look at it as a win-win. It not only closes the gap, but it's about $400,000 more than what the school board had requested in terms of closing that $6.6 million gap. In terms of school construction, I hope this table is the table that can explain it all. We basically have a strategy to fund what I'm calling School 2 and 3, if we count Crossroads as School number 1. And if you look at the far left-hand column, there's about $9.5 million in what we call prior funding that's available. We have a strategy that started a couple of years ago of saying that, okay, if we're going to build a school, there's money to plan it, there's money to construct it, and there's money for furniture and fixtures. And basically the model has been about $22 million. So let's not assume that it's K through 8 or K through 5, but that's the funding strategy. So in that first year, roughly $2.2 million to plan. In the second year, $14.8 million to construct. In the third year, $5 million for the furniture and fixtures. So if you look at this prior funding of $9.5 million, basically you could use about $4.4 million of it to plan 2 schools, $2.2 million each. And let's assume it takes about a year to plan them. You get to 2014, and then you have $24.6 million set there that's ready for the construction of those 2 schools. And then when you look at 2015, and then there's a residual dollars from that $9.5 million that gets you to $14.8 million per school to construct. And you look in the last year, in this 3-year system, you have money for the furniture and fixtures. And then we start over again with 2016 with, again, $4.4 million to plan the schools 4 and 5. Just a strategy. One of the reasons we have this in place is some of the concerns we have with our debt capacity. But again, there's a strategy in place to construct schools 2 and 3 and plan for schools 4 and 5. I will say in lifelong learning, 2 quick things I'd like to also add is that when we took this employer of choice, it just didn't stop with the city. Earlier this year, the school system basically opened their doors and said, we'd love to have more people volunteer. Well, what we're doing is we're providing 4 hours of leave for any employee who'd like to volunteer at Norfolk Public Schools. So again, we would provide this vehicle for more involvement, not just from the community, but also from the employees. And lastly, I will say that there's $500,000 set aside in the capital improvement plan for the career technical school that's been discussed for a long period of time. This is an opportunity for high-quality education strategy, and it really has a proven track record. So there's been a discussion by the school system of having this career technical school, and what we wanted to do, if there were any planning dollars that were necessary, we didn't want to hold them up. So there is a provision for that in the capital improvement plan. Under safe, healthy, and inclusive communities, you have the priority statement there, but I like to start off with the East Beach community. For an unprecedented 3rd time, we're going to have Homerama there. There's about $50,000 in this proposed budget to help with the sponsorship of that program, but I think what's important is that that provides an opportunity of what we'd like our communities to look like. As we start to look at safe, healthy, and inclusive communities, another thing that's very important is how we address policing. I will say that to get back to the basics in terms of community policing, it's not just patrolling neighborhoods, but actually walking neighborhoods. One of the items that you have in this proposed budget is basically for the police department to get out of the business of booking, to let that go back to the sheriff's office. What will occur is there are 31 officers that would be freed up. I will tell you that the way that this is designed, we would have a sergeant and six officers that would be in each of the 3 sectors. So you would have 7 additional resources in each sector that really could work on targeted issues in neighborhoods. I also want to mention that there's funding for an additional police recruit class in 2013. You can start to look at where we are with our sworn strength. While the sworn strength is there, we do have vacancies. We want to make sure that we're giving the police department all the tools that they need in order to make sure that their staffing is as close to the full strength as possible. We've talked for a while about fire stations. I will tell you that we had a study back in 2007. We do have an infrastructure issue, and what's unique about fire stations is that our team members actually live in these fire stations. So we clearly have a backlog. We clearly have an issue. So in the out years of the capital improvement plan, we have funds for replacing a fire station. But in the interim, there still needs to be maintenance and repairs at the fire station. So we've put in this proposed budget $250,000 of additional funding for what we call maintenance and repairs. And we want to have the preliminary focus on these fire stations so that we can make sure that we're taking care of them even as we go through the process of constructing new fire stations. We haven't constructed a new one, I believe, in about 15 years. Also in safe, healthy, and inclusive communities is the Norfolk Community Services Board. I will tell you that in this transition process, The board chair, Reverend Bryan, has been great. The board members have been great. The staff, they've been great. The reality is, as we started to go through this budget, the current service delivery model just is not sustainable. And it looks like these are a lot of numbers on this page, but the reality is that where the CSB is right now and the funds they need or the resources they need are about $6.3 million. That's, if we start off with the current budget where we had $2.8 million from the city, that would continue. That would be an additional $1.5 million from the city. And right now, the CSB has a fund balance of a little over $2 million, and that would be used also. I think what's extremely important here is that we need to look to the board about what's going to be the service delivery model in the future. We want to make sure that we start off by looking at the CSB in a fashion that is comprehensive, because ultimately it's about the clients. And the CSB does a great service for this community, and we need to make sure that we are looking to have the CSB strong as they come into the city. What I will say in terms of safe, healthy, and inclusive communities, the rec centers, I heard this from the council, I heard it from the community, and I think it was one of those issues where as we started to shrink government, we got a big ouch. At some point, just having a community asset like this closed just didn't make sense. So as we went through this budget, we had it as one of our initiatives is to reopen the rec centers, the 17 small rec centers, Saturdays year-round. Also, we would reopen our two larger rec centers, Norview and Lambert's Point. We'd open those back up on Wednesdays for the full day. We would expand aquatics hours, and we would expand team programming. And as I mentioned earlier, we would properly staff the skate park. I think we need to mention, as we start to talk about safe, healthy, and inclusive communities, second chances in the Norfolk Adult Drug Court. Second chances, we've talked about that for a while, and what's the right mix of programs and services. We think it's important that we, in this whole synergy model, that when we start to look at second chances, as well as we start to look at what used to be pretrial release and lots, that we believe that there could be a combination there, and that we could bring that in-house to the city. If nothing else, we also believe that if we could have a transitional year where we could have second chances either in the city or set them up as their own 501c3, much as we've done with other organizations in the past. And I will say that we have provided additional funds of about $200,000 for additional staffing at the drug court. Again, if we're talking about a community, this is something that we believe that's very important to the community. Economic vitality and workforce development. What's key here is that we just want to be smart about how we process. We could have called this being more business friendly or being business friendly, but we think that being business friendly is basically making sure that there's certainty when someone comes in to get something processed, that we're doing it in a timely fashion. Planning has been one of those departments over time that they've taken cuts and they've been rearranged and reorganized, and we've provided additional resources not only in code enforcement but in terms of permitting and zoning also to ensure that we have this smart processing, as well as we're looking at collaborations between the city and RHA. What's important is that I think you'll see in between my presentation and the formal session a banner outside with city sites. We're now launched and we're live where we are marketing all of the sites that the city owns. We're also marketing those sites that NRHA has in their portfolio. And that's been a very good collaborative effort between the city and NRHA over the last month to see how can we share our talent pools, and it's been very good. Accessibility, mobility, and connectivity. What's important is that you will see that in the capital improvement plan, we have additional funds to make sure that we finish the intercity passenger rail station at Harbor Park, as well as we have additional funds related to some improvements that we'll have on St. Julian's. There's funds for the bus transfer station. I will say that our partners in HRT have already applied for a $2 million grant that's related to the bus transfer station. We think that that's great. We'll find out, I think, in June whether or not we get that grant. But that grant, dollar for dollar, will bring down our total cost as it relates to the transfer station. And then lastly, we've talked about bikeability for a while. We've looked at our current resources, and we have earmarked some additional funds to make sure that we are, each time we deal with pavement, we're looking at opportunities for bike lanes and sharrows. Environmental sustainability, what you will find in this proposed budget is that we do have a dollar fee increase on stormwater. We believe that as we started to address some of the stormwater issues and flooding issues, that while there are automatic increases, there are going to be some issues that come down the road that we don't believe we're prepared for financially. So we believe that this dollar increase will help us at a time when we have this laser focus on flooding and stormwater management. And of course, we're looking for every opportunity that we can be efficient, energy efficient in the way that we handle our resources, our buildings, and our programs and services. And lastly, I'll just talk a little bit about the capital improvement plan. Last year, the capital improvement plan was almost $105 million. But again, we had some once-in-a-generation funding requests in that plan, things that we had to do, like a courthouse. So as you start to see FY13, the capital improvement plan is much, much smaller. It was about $55 million. The proposed capital improvement plan that you have before you is even smaller than that. Much of that has to do with the savings we had at the courthouse. The savings in the courthouse, we were able to ripple that out through some of the out years. And basically, when you get the capital improvement plan, you'll see that, again, we tried to take projects by our priority areas. So there are funds for the Recreation Parks Master Plan. There's funds for our neighborhood plans, funds for the Neighborhood Conservation Redevelopment Project that NRHA has each year, as well as we're taking care of our infrastructure, parking lots, bridges, boat ramps, and again, the transfer station. And I think the last slide that I have is just a quick overview of the plan. As I mentioned beforehand, you can see in what was planned for 2013 was a little bit over $55 million. We were able to bring that down a little bit in the proposed budget. And then lastly, what are we looking for in terms of FY13? In FY13, there are some of our funds that we need to review. If you will remember last year, we gave you a list of about 12 items that we were going to review in 2012, including the CSB, including retirement, healthcare, things of that nature. And I think we have a pretty good track record of what we were able to review in 2012. In 2013, we want to spend some time on our cemeteries fund, the golf fund, and the parking fund, because right now all of those aren't necessarily tracking towards being self-sufficient. And also we want to view revenue and expenditure strategies. We're at a point, I mentioned earlier, that we want to be able to build schools. We want to have strong reserves. In order to do that, we have to have a good discussion, and it's incumbent upon the administration to provide the council with the information to make sure as we look forward to not only having you approve this budget, the 2013 budget, but how we would deal with 2014, both on the resource side and the expenditure side. So that's my presentation, and council, so the budget is now turned over to you. So I thank you for your time tonight.
Okay.
Thank you, Marcus. That was an excellent presentation, Marcus. Our thanks to you and to the entire budget staff here as well. I've had a chance, since we got the document, to look through some of it. It's more readable than the ones in the past have been. The numbers are clearer. I know that's a struggle for you. There's a reluctance behind all that, I know, but we could actually find what I was looking for here for a while, and so we'll see. But thank you for that. The next step is that we will have the public hearing on the budget on May the 2nd, next Wednesday night at Cranby High School, and that starts at 6 o'clock. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, and so we'll hear comments from the public at that time. Then the council will follow on with the work session in the following Tuesday, right? Okay. All right, so we will start again right at 7 o'clock. We'll be joined by the Planning Commission for a public hearing. So we got to have some some chairs placed up here, and I know you've got to move some of your equipment, and so if we don't go too far, we can try to get started right at 7. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.